Okay, Mega? You see people there. Hi, good evening. This is Rahul Reddy, live here from Houston, Texas. Every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central Time, Reddy Neumann PC does bring in updates on immigration. Today we have an important topic of HR 1044 bill. This is pending in the Congress right now. This was passed in 2019 in the House. It went to Senate. It went through a lot of different issues. Finally, it got passed through with some slight amendments. And now it has gone to the it has gone to the House of Representatives, and this bill is about to be passed. But we need your support. I believe that anybody who doesn't support this bill, they are racists. I don't know what they call them, because this bill eliminates the discrimination between, eliminates the discrimination based on the country of birth. We have had situations where women were not given vote. We have had situations where colored people were not being given vote. I want to remind about my ex-boss, Mr. Halim. When he came into the United States, he told me that when he gets onto the bus of in New York, he has to go at the back of the bus. That's what Mr. Halim told me. He was a very great immigration lawyer. That's how the discrimination was. I mean, they removed parts of the discrimination, but this one is still lingering. If you're born in certain countries, you've been discriminated, and that is something you do not have control over. You can control, okay, you smoke, you are discriminated. That is understandable. You drink alcohol, that is understandable. That is something, an optional thing. You can control or not control. Your birth cannot be controlled. We are born where we are. We don't have any control. Discrimination based on the birth is very immoral, illegal, on all senses. This bill eliminates to a greater extent the discrimination based on the birth. It does not completely eliminate, but to a greater extent it does eliminate based on the country of birth. If you're asking a professional, okay, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a software lawyer, just ask how good you are. You don't have to ask them where you're born at. So this bill takes it off. So I strongly recommend all the people to go to the link provided at the bottom of this one, to use the draft that has been provided my business partner, Reddy Neumann, on her blog, write the letter to the congressman, and make sure that it's reached to the congressman. Everybody of you, your friends, your family, your get-togethers. I'm trying to attend a marriage next week, a restricted marriage. But I'm going to take my laptops there and put it there. Hey, you better sign this one. If you don't sign this one, you know what? We don't even want you. You are a racist, you're a bigot, and we don't want to even allow you into this one. That's how I intend to behave, because this is the bill, you need to get it done. I know we told that last week this Congress is only extended until 14, but now we know that Congress is extended all the way to 18th, and it probably even may extend beyond that time too. Emily, anything that you suggest on contacting the congressman?
Yeah, so several people have reached out to us after they received a response from their representative. It is very possible your representative, whoever's actually responding to these points, may not be 100% up to date on what's going on. We saw a couple that responded back saying, yes, this bill is in the House or in the Senate, waiting to be passed by the Senate. Well, we all know that's not the case. That already happened. We have others that responded back saying that, yes, I support this. It's waiting to be signed by the president.
It's passed by the House.
Yeah,
also.
They said it was passed by the House.
And we contacted the congresswoman, and then no, they didn't. They backed off on that.
Yeah, so I think that, in general, things are happening very fast in the House right now. They're just bringing up bills and passing them, bringing them and passing them. They've got so much to finish. They've trying to get the spending bill passed by, I think, the 18th is when the continuing resolution expires. So don't get defeated, that they're not responding correctly, or you're not getting a response, continue to go ahead and send those letters through their website by email. And the more that we can do that, show the support for this bill, the more likely we can get it to pass. Whether it passes on its own as a standalone bill or as part of the spending bill, I don't think it matters one way or another.
It does.
As long as it passes. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't get discouraged by seeing people on Twitter saying how horrible this is, or don't get discouraged when you get a response from your representative that they clearly don't know what's going on. They've just got a lot on their plate right now and are actually trying to speed up and get through a lot of legislation in a very short period of time.
I issue a challenge to you guys. I want you to, whatever response that you got it from the congressperson, I want you to post it on your Facebook page. I want you to give that link of your Facebook because when you comment in it, we can see your thing. Please post it on your Facebook board that you wrote the letter, and if you get a response, the response from the congressman, I want you to post it on your Facebook. Please do that, and have everybody does. Now let's get into the bill, Emily. Now, after digesting the bill, of the changes and all those things. Now the bill says that it is becoming effective October of 2022. Does it mean that all the people have to wait until October 2022, October 1st of 2022 to file the adjustment of status?
No, so there's actually multiple sections of this bill, and each section has its own effective date. So yes, the provisions regarding the changing the percentage of the cap and eliminating the cap over that 10-year period of time, those might take longer to be put into effect. It's the beginning of the fiscal year following the year when they pass this bill. However, another section of the bill is the one that talks about when you can actually file the adjustment of status. That's the section that says once you have an I-140 petition that's been approved for 2 years, you can file an adjustment of status regardless of whether your green card is immediately available or not. That is in section 7, and that section specifically says that it takes effect 1 year after the date of enactment. So that means if this bill passes on today, December 15th, then it takes effect and allows you to file the adjustment if your I-140 has been approved for 2 years by December 15th, 2021.
So if my I-140 is approved on December 15th of 2000, that's a December 16th of 2019, in December 16th of 2021, which is 1 year from now, I can file the adjustment of status.
Exactly.
But what about the priority date movement and all those things?
Exactly. That's what I think a lot of people don't get is the priority date movement is, yes, that's part of the bill. That's going to take longer to implement. That determines when you can actually receive your green card.
Okay.
There's a separate section that talks about when you can file the adjustment regardless of whether there's a green card available or not. And that's the section also that locks in your child's age. So that's in a separate section completely. So that section takes effect 1 year from the date of enactment. So 1 year from now, if you had an I-140 approved a year ago, 1 year from now, you can file the adjustment regardless of what's going on with the per country cap and whether it's at 15% or 20% or 30%, whatever those percents are, it's irrelevant. You still can file the adjustment. Now those percents will determine how long it takes you to receive the green card, but you get so much benefit from having the adjustment filed and locking in your kids' ages.
So Emily, practically speaking, about June of 2021, they can kick their H-1B off because there are 6 months, they can move out of the company. This is the greatest benefit, is that the I-140 approved people can file the adjustment of status if they meet only one condition. That one condition is that the I-140 must have been approved for more than 2 years. When can we file this adjustment of status? 1 year from the time the legislation passes. The priority date movements are different, and this is different, guys. We can file 1 year from the time we file the adjustment of status. This is the greatest thing that you can get it. Please have everybody write a letter. I see some of the people telling that, oh, can I sign a petition to the White House? You can do so if you want to. We're not telling you not to do. Can I give money to some people who are just asking me? That's up to you if you want to keep giving the money. But one thing that we want you to do is, we want you to write a letter to the congressman explaining what your individual situation is. We have known that a lot of the people have got the responses, as Emily has pointed out, from the congressman. In fact, 95% of the people do get response. And they, as Emily has pointed out, some of the responses are, they are not aware of the congressman. That's good, you're making them aware. They're already good people, like Joe Lafrin. You don't have to educate her what this bill is. She's the master of it. Those kind of people. Now that's a way of telling thank you, lady, for doing this job. And the person who are completely opposite to the bill, there are, we have 385 people who voted in favor of the bill, only 65 people who voted against the bill in the House. Even if you are belonging to that particular region, you let your congressman know that this is the one that you wanted to be passed, so that maybe his mind will change. That's one thing that need to be considered. Remember that in the Senate, this bill was passed unanimously. All 100 people voted for it. Nobody objected to it. It passed through unanimously. So even in the House, we don't need a supermajority. Unlike in the Senate, we don't need unanimous. We just need a simple majority. And guess what? We do have the majority. All we need is that to put this bill out there for the voting. I'm sure this is going to be passed. So please work with your representative to get this bill passed. Some people are pointing out, I announced people saying that, hey, I have put it, Santosh Kumar is telling, he posted it on the Facebook. Thank you very much, Santosh. Some people are posting the petitions. We're not telling they're not going to be effective, but the more individual letters will be more effective as compared to that of 10,000 people sending it to the House, and who's reading what, we don't know how effective. But believe me, if you send an email, when you go to the congressman, there is a separate contact congressman. They will ask you for which reason you're contacting. Is it because you want to look into the budget, you want to look into the border? Immigration is clearly there in there. And then you write the letter, which is given at the bottom of the link provided in the YouTube and Facebook, which is of Immigration Girl blog. Please use that. Or you say, somebody says, well, I want a different format. That's fine. You use your own format. Make sure you explain your thing there, you customize those things and send it to the congressman. Arjun was telling that he didn't get any response from the congressman. That's fine, Arjun, it's okay. There's some of the congressmen's office are not that good in responding. It's okay. A lot of the congressmen, what we see is that if they're completely favorable of this bill, they do send a response. If they're completely opponent to you sometimes, they may not send a confirmation saying that they received it. If for the people who are sending the letters, and put it on the Facebook. Even if you don't receive a response from the congressman, put it on the Facebook. Let everybody know that you did it. Some of the people who are calling us and posting are saying that the Twitter is telling everything that as bad. That's fine. Let the Twitter say whatever it want to. Why don't you tell what you want to? You tell on your Twitter what you want to. You tell on your Facebook. But does the congressman look at your Facebook? Does the congressman look at your Twitter? We don't know. Most probably the answer is no. Maybe they do. But one thing is that a letter goes there. They will register your thing. They will consider that thing. Whether they are going to act in favor of it or not is a different issue, but they will consider your letter.
A couple of questions have come up about locking in the child's age, particularly for people who just filed in October of 2020 under the October Visa Bulletin. They want to know, will this bill solve things for people who already filed? Now, I'll tell you that it's not entirely clear. It does specifically say that for any dependent child who files an application under this new subsection, that individual continues to qualify regardless of the age and regardless of whether the main applicant is deceased. But it does say under this subsection, which would lead me to believe that this, the locking in the age is for situations where you file based on this 2-year rule after this law comes into effect. Now, what will happen for people who filed in October 2020? We would have to wait and see how USCIS decides to implement it, whether they will apply it retroactively or not. But based on the wording of the bill itself, it would only be for people who file after this bill takes effect, then the child's age is locked in.
Augustia has this question. Mr. Reddy, I reached out to the Indianapolis House Senator last week, but no reply. Right now, we want you to contact the House representative. That's more important. Because the Senate has already passed it, it is not expected to go back to Senate unless the House amends it, which is going to complicate the entire thing. We want you to contact the House representative. Now, I don't know, when you say you contacted the senator, did you call him, or you sent an online attachment where you go to the website of the congressman and there is a contact congressman there where you can write a letter to him? That is the best way. But if the people have just dropped and went to the website of the congressman and wrote a letter to the congressman, you didn't receive any response, do one thing, call them up. Just take the phone, just call them up, and if they don't pick up the phone, leave a message explaining them that you called in support of the HR 1044 bill, you want it to be passed, mention it very clearly to them so they will register it. They have things there that they register. Now, some people are asking, I'm not a US citizen, can I petition to the Congress? Yes, you have all rights. You are living in United States, you're paying the taxes. There's nothing wrong in contacting the congressman. One thing I want to make sure, don't ever, ever, ever tell you're a US citizen unless you are a US citizen. Don't tell that. A lot of people ask question, can my kid contact the congressman? Why not? If the kid is old enough, they can contact, yeah. The story that when kid tells is quite different. I have had situations, where a 22-year-old girl calls me and says that I didn't get the green card. My parents got it. My two siblings, younger siblings got it. That's a very sad situation. I want these kids to contact the congressman and explain it to them. Look, when I go to college, I can't go to the college because even though I'm in-state, I have to pay extra fees. And if they age out, guess what? They have to do the whole journey that what you have been trying to do it, they have to do the whole journey again. So just consider them also in your mind when you're writing the letter to. Please have your relatives contact. Can you have your employer write a letter? Yes, just modify the letter, draft it for them, give it to them so it becomes easy for them. Don't throw the letter, what Emily has put there, on them. Just change it. Make them feel a little bit blanks when the rest of the things, let them do it. Your employer, your colleagues, your friends, your family friends, whoever have become a US citizens, they can still write it. This is a situation, it's very bad, it needs to be corrected. And I have had people who come from different countries and they have complained to me saying that it's not benefiting us. Why should we support this bill? Well, I told them one thing, that when women were discriminated, we were not women. When some of the colored people were discriminated, maybe the other people were not, the white people were not discriminated, but the colored people were discriminated. That is not fair. Treating human beings based on the birth is not a fair thing. It's like telling the things that, let's do one thing. All the Indian race people will go to Olympics and we'll tie the legs of all the other race people and then we'll play them soccer. Of course we will win when we tie the legs of the other people. That's not fair. That's not the way it should be. That's not the way society runs. So even request the people of the other country to support this one, because this will eliminate the discrimination. And when you contact the congressman and when you contact the senators or when you contact anybody, don't tell that this is favoring Indians or Chinese nationals. No, this bill actually still has some discrimination, even though I'm willing to live with it. It has something, but it is not favoring Indians or Chinese. It is making everybody equal before the law. Nothing special for Indians in this one. It only treats everybody equals, and that's all we want. We don't want to start from 10 meters when we are going a 100 meters race. We just want everybody to start at 0 meters. We are starting at 0 meters, they should start at 0 meters. We don't want to start 1,500 meters behind and they're starting at 0 meters. That's not fair. This brings us from minus 1,500 meters to the 0 meters to go for 100 meters. That's all it is. We are not getting to 10 meters. We are just starting at 0 meters.
Yeah, a number of people have pointed out that you can check the House of Representatives calendar online, and there's no bills on their calendar. There's nothing saying they're going to be planning votes or anything, and that's 100% correct. However, they're still acting on bills, even though they're not on the calendar. So the only thing you're seeing on the calendar is discussions and debates about different topics over the next 2 or 3 days. But none of the bills are being talked about on the calendar, but it's still happening. So don't get discouraged that why am I not seeing it come up on the calendar? I don't know the inner workings of Congress and how that calendar works, but I can tell you several bills have been discussed and voted on even though they were not on the calendar.
I want to respond to Santosh Sinha. He's saying that he sees lots of opposition now. Maybe you're right to an extent, but I don't see that, Santosh. Look at the Congress. So look at the Senate. They voted enormously. Not a single person voted against the bill. When it went to the House, though, if I'm not correct me wrong, somewhere at 385 versus 65 people voted against it. 385 House of Representatives voted in favor of us. So in the Congress is what it counts. Okay, I mean, I'm not telling that you should not voice, but I don't see that. Maybe you see it. Maybe some of the things, when we hate something, we like to look at them more too. That may be what you're doing, Mr. Sinha. I'm not telling that you're wrong, but yeah, it is. I want you to do as much advertisement as possible, contact as many people as possible, have your employer, have your colleagues, have everybody write letters, call the senator's office, call the congressman's office. That's all you and I can do, Santosh. Don't be discouraged by the other people. You do your efforts.
Yeah, I think if especially Twitter is a very easy example of this. If you were to search for hashtag S386 or hashtag HR1044 on Twitter, you will come across a lot of very negative posts about this bill. That doesn't mean anything. That is, some people do what's easy. It's super easy to retweet something on Twitter and feel like you've done something, or share on Twitter and feel like you've done something. Just because that's happening and they're tagging people in it doesn't mean that they're actually making progress on their opposition to these bills. The way to make progress on these bills is to contact your representative, share your story with them, let them see the human face of how this is impacting people, especially I think having kids that are aging out or have aged out is a great way to really put a human face to, so they can see the true impact of this. So again, don't get discouraged by all the stuff you see on Twitter. Twitter is just kind of an echo chamber. It's not getting through to the actual representatives who are doing the votes. And as Raul said, the Senate passed this unanimously. The House already passed it, the huge majority. Those are the votes that count. Those are the opinions that count.
People are asking a question that I already filed the adjustment of status. Will this new bill lock my kids' age? Yes, it does. But when does it happen? It may not happen immediately. It may lock definitely 1 year from the time it's passed. So that's the only caveat, is that it may not lock right now, but it will lock 1 year from now. Yes, this is very good for you. Everybody who has a kid who's born in India should take into consideration. Everybody who's been discriminated for so long should take this very seriously.
A lot of people asking if this is going to be part of the spending bill, the omnibus bill. That's definitely a possibility. That could be why we're not seeing it on the House calendar. We're not seeing any discussions referring to the bill through the House of Representatives. It may be that they can pass this as a rider through on the spending bill, and that works too. Whichever way the congressman feels that will be the best way, the easiest way to get that passed, That's all that matters.
Lakshmikant Sharma has that his kid is aging out 21 years at April 2021. Can this do any favor? Oh my goodness. Maybe not to you. We are not yet sure how this bill will be implemented. I would recommend that you may have to contact the lawyer immediately to make sure that you have alternative provisions for your child so that he has something to look. Maybe he should not rely completely on this adjustment of status. I hope this bill would have passed 1 year ago. You would have been in a much different position, but maybe this bill may not help you.
Sanket from Facebook wants to know how this bill impacts physical therapists. He heard that they've added Schedule A for PTs and nurses. Yes, that is correct. So for each year for, I believe, the next 9 to 10 years, they're carving out 4,400 green cards from the EB3 number to be available just for physical therapists and nurses under the Schedule A category. So that should free up some green cards so that you won't have to wait in the backlog as long, but you also fall under the provision of the 2 years from your I-140 approval. So if your date doesn't become current due to having these extra green cards available, and you hit the 2-year mark on your I-140 approval, you can still file a 485. So you kind of have the best of both worlds there. Pratibha from YouTube wants to know how this affects EB1C candidates. Do we need to wait for 2 years after I-140 approval for 485 filing?
Yeah.
Yes, it would be the same. So currently, EB1 is backlogged for India, backlogged for China, but it's current for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But you would still be allowed to file the 485 once your I-140 has been approved for 2 years, even if your priority date is still backlogged. That also means that rest of world can still file their 485, so they're not really losing out on anything during this kind of 2-year transition period.
So one thing is that right now there is no 2 years backlog for them to file the 485 application. So it's not that you only will have to file in 2 years. If your priority date is current though, even if the bill is effective in 1 year from now, if the priority date is current, you can still file the adjustment of status irrespective of the 2-year provision though. You don't have to wait for 1 year. Because right now the priority date is current for you if you have filed an I-140 approval 1 year ago. So it's current, you can file. You don't have to wait for the bill. Okay, one gentleman, he's on the green card process and L1B. Do you recommend to switch to H1B? Sanket, if this bill doesn't pass through, I strongly recommend to go to H1B, because most of the time your L1B, you'll max out your 6 year, you'll max out your 5 years, and you will not be able to stay in this country. So I strongly recommend that you switch to H1B. But if this bill passes through though, then most probably you'll be fine.
Bobby from YouTube wants to know what happens if kids are aging out next year before December 2021. So as we mentioned, assuming this bill passes in December, it would be effective from next December to allow you to file the adjustment if at that point your I-140 has been approved for 2 years. But what if your child is aging out before December 2021? Then you need to look at, under the Child Status Protection Act, is there any way that the amount of time the I-140 petition was pending, if that's subtracted from the age, will that help? But ultimately, I think that that's going to be, it's certainly an area that the delay in the passage of this bill and the delay of that effective date is going to negatively impact some people that are just on that bubble. I don't think there's a solution in the current bill for that situation.
A lot of people are asking the question, what are the probabilities that this bill will not be presented in the House? One thing is, Jo Lofgren, what's her position? She is the Judiciary Chairman of the House, is right? And she definitely is well aware of this bill. She is the sponsor of the bill. I would say she's the mother of this bill. I don't know if that's a bad word or good word, but she is an architect of this bill. And she's well aware, and she's in a good position I definitely think she will put this one for the voting. I'm pretty positive it should go through. It has enough votes to pass through. So it got the attention of Jo Lofgren. I mean, she's the architect of this bill. She knows about the bill. She already released a press statement after it is passed in the Senate that she is, even though she has some small minor objections, she is going to support this bill as it is passed in the Senate. So it should not, hope so, it should go through it. I don't know.
Sai from YouTube wants to know, with this new bill, do I need to stick to the same employer for 2 years after I receive the I-140 approval?
Looks like.
So, the bill itself technically does not require that. It's not mandatory, but in practicality, most likely yes, because your employer still needs to support the filing of the adjustment of status. And if you've left that employer, they may not be willing to support that by filing that supplement J. So ultimately, yes, you would need to stay with that employer for 2 years, file your adjustment of status, and then after 180 days, you would be eligible for AC-21 and could move to a new employer in a similar job.
Sumit has this. Is there a chance that we can go to the next Congress and get this voted? Or we have to start from the scratch? To my legislation process, my understanding, we may have to start from the scratch. So Sumit, what my priority is, you need to put a lot of efforts right now, rather than going for the next Congress and then banging our heads, because all the work, it's like this, you're climbing a mountain, okay? Now you are at 9,000 feet. All you need to do is that go to the 10 feet extra. From there, it's all hill down. Guess what? You fell down, you start all the way from 0 feet. That is so hard to climb it again. So this last 10 feet is absolutely essential, Sumit. Let's fight for it. Let's get the letters. Let's get the team going on. Let's not start from all the way from the ground zero.
Koshik from YouTube submitted his letter to his congressman and got a reply that the House passed the bill and it's with the Senate. Should I give him a call and inform him that it passed the Senate? Yes, absolutely. No harm in doing that. I think, like I said earlier, a lot of these congressmen, things are moving very quickly right now. They may not be up to date 100% on every single bill that's passed the Senate and pending in the House. So you need to inform them, hey, this already passed the Senate. I need your support to get it, the compromise or the amendment to be passed to the House so that you can get this to the President.
Let me tell you one thing, though. When I was looking into C-SPAN on the live Congress session, what I noticed was that there are about at least 500 bills like this that are about to be passed in the House Assembly. I mean, the clerk was reading 100 bills. I was waiting. When does the 1044 comes in? When the 1044 comes in? The good part was she was reading based on the number, though. So when she passed the 1044, I mean, it came to whatever number, and then she went to 2,000, though. Then she kept on going all the way to 8,000. And she read like about, I think so, about 70, 80 on that particular day. So there are a lot of, this is just one of the bill. There are a lot of other bills. The good part is that we don't see many Congress people opposing this bill at this point of time. That's the way we want it. It doesn't matter some of the racial people who believe in racial superiority or country superiority. They may be, asking to do this, but in general, in the Congress, we don't see anybody opposing this bill. Believe us that this bill was a bipartisan bill in the Senate. It was passed. We had some opposition from David Perdue from Georgia. We have Scott from Senator Scott from Florida. We had some issues with Rand Paul. All those things were being cleared. The major objection that came from initially when the bill came was Senator Grassley. I mean, we expected him to completely oppose this bill. He put some conditions that the H-1B should be restricted to an extent, which they restricted. They had some issues with that, and that were they restricted. And then we had Senator Rand Paul, who wants to have healthcare workers. They added those things. It hasn't poisoned yet. It has diluted to a little extent. There's no poison pill in it. There are sometimes, legally we call it as a poison pill. That means that it destroys the entire law. We haven't seen any poison pill put in at this point of time. Even Chuck Grassley's, there are some objections to it. We had some Chinese nationals restrictions with regards to the security issue. There are some people who are opposing based on that, but in general, there is no poison pill. This should go through.
A couple of people have asked kind of what's the deadline that we have to get this bill passed. It's unclear exactly, as of this moment, I would say December 18th, which is Friday. That's the last scheduled day that the House has planned activities.
But then you said December 14th last time.
Right. Well, let me say this. The new Congress comes in on January 3rd. So that's the drop dead
January
last
3rd?
day. Yes.
Okay.
So it has to be passed by the House before then, and it has to get signed by the President before January 20th when he goes out of power. So ultimately, we really want to get this through by the end of December.
Any more questions on it? Question from Santosh again is, what are the probability of the president to sign this bill? Very high, very, very high, very, very high, because it's a bipartisan bill. Senator Grassley signed off on this bill, which is an agent of president in Senate, though. So it should go through. It has restrictions on the H-1B employers. It does not increase the number of green card holders. So we're not expecting much problem from the president's office on this one. He hasn't opposed this bill. He hasn't given any support, but he hasn't opposed this bill. So it should not have any problem. And if you look into the news, though, major news channels, you don't see this 1044 bill, guys, anywhere. Absolutely none. One of the reasons is that there are so many other bills that are important, though. This doesn't look for them to be an important thing. This is important for us. It may not be important for them. I would rather prefer that this bill stays low and just passes through Congress and goes to the president and gets signed, and after that, anybody wants to make any noise, they can. For now, we just want you to contact the congressman. And maybe once the bill is passed, then we should look into contacting the president's office at that time.
Arifal from Facebook wants to know, if this bill gets passed, will it make the EB-3 process slower for those who've already filed from another country? No, it shouldn't, because the caps percentage that impact priority dates doesn't start to change until 1 full year after the first of the fiscal year. So we're talking October 2022. If you've already filed your 485, you're going to have your green card before then. So it should not have any impact on that.
Should not have any impact on it. Where can I find my congressman? This question comes from Shanaz Daredia, Dr. Shanaz. There is a link we provided at the bottom. That is for immigrationgirl.com. That's Emily's blog. In there, we have drafted a letter for you. You can use that letter if you want to. She has also given you the link where you can go and find out. You have to input your address in there, and then you will get the congressman. It will come up with the 2 senators and 1 congressman for you, or the House of Representatives. We want you to contact the House of Representatives. We don't mind if you contact the senator, so that's fine too. But we definitely want you to contact the House of Representative person. Yeah, a lot of people are asking questions about other things. There are daily conference calls that you can come and speak with us. You can go to our in-law group, and we have the daily conference call. For this one, we want to really only address about the bill, because all the problems for the H-4EAD, the problems for the H-1 extensions, the problems for the H-1 amendments, the problems for kids aging out, the problems of your travel every time you go outside the travel. I mean, practically, if you come to any of my conference call and you look into 90% of those problems will disappear with this bill. Only 10% of them will remain. 90% of the problems will disappear. So my question, that's the reason why we want to dedicate it. All this time, we are at 9,990 feet of the height, and we just need to go for the 10 feet extra. Once we go to the 10 feet extra, then all our 90% of our problems will be solved. Now, if we don't go to the 10 feet extra right now, what we have to start is, we start with ground zero again, and we don't want that to happen. Believe me, we are fighting for this bill from 1996. When I became an immigration lawyer, as soon as I get the green card in 1996, the next month it was backlogged. From that time to right now, we have had many problems. In between, we had a success actually. Previously, the entire thing was 7%, Emily. There was nothing like if the unused green cards were not given to the people who are using more. The 7% cap limit was there. So what happened was that the 7% limit was there. If nobody uses, they used to trash that green cards. They didn't used to give it. So in 2000, they passed a bill, 2001. They passed a bill where they said, if there are nobody using the green cards, we are going to give it to the countries that are using. So from 2001 onwards to approximately 2008, 2009, things were a little bit okay, but it got worse because then all other countries came in. So the discrimination got worse, worse, and worse. Now, for certain nationals, if you file a green card, if this doesn't go through, the amount of time that you get the green card, according to Emily's and mine, was 108 years to get the green card. Now, I know you may question that, oh no, the priority date doesn't look like that. That's not true. Look into it. In 2012, what was the priority date in March? What is right now? In 8 years, the priority date moved back 3 months. What do you expect is going to happen? But then comes this institute called Cato Institute. They took, they probably came up with the same things. And you know what they told? Emily and I are wrong by 42 years. They were, I respect that institute, Cato Institute. They have a lot of money and they have a lot of things, and I support that Cato Institute. They proved that we are wrong. We are 108 years is wrong by 42 years. They said it's actually 150 years. 150 years. So please, this is the time where we need to get it. Write the letter to the congressman. I don't know what to say if you don't write the letter to the congressman.
So this question is for you, Rahul. I think it's a good point. This is from YouTube. S Vlogs wanted to know, why would a congressman want to help Indians? We don't currently have a vote. What would be their incentive to pass this bill?
It's not just a vote that everybody counts all the time. They are human beings too. That's number one. Number two, look at it. You are not productive because you have to go through a lot of hula hoops to get the H-1Bs. If you have an I-140 EAD, guess what? Guess what? If you have an I-140 EAD, you don't have to go through the H-1B. You will buy a bigger home, you will spend a nice car, you will spend the money in his constituency. You'll be more free to roam around, you'll be more good. You will probably take 2 jobs if you want to. Your wife can do it. Your wife cannot have a driving license, that's a problem. That's a productive problem. Your wife have to go to the H-4 EAD, that's a big problem. Your kids' school education becomes a problem because they can't go to the in-state school and claim it. That's a problem. You are not productive because, look, you are coming to this video show. Why are you listening to us? You're wasting your time. You could be more productive. If this bill goes through, you'll be more productive and pay more taxes. You don't have to come to our weekly show on this one. You get the green card sooner, you're much better. So they will consider all the economics. Yes, we are voters too. You will become a voter later and tomorrow too, hopefully so. So that is one of the things, but they are human beings. They come from the same, they have the same blood like you. Maybe theirs is B plus and yours is B minus, whatever it might be. They are human beings too. So please, you write the letter, let them determine if they don't want to help you or they want to help you. Right now, They really want to help you. Look at the votes. It's 385 versus 65. They want to help you. Now, question is, do you want, right now, you need to get their attention to put it back on the floor. That's all we needed. We have the votes. We have the votes. We just wanted to put it on the floor.
And I think it is a fundamental foundation of America. All men are created equal. Now, of course, we know that applies to women as well. Maybe not initially, but now it does. And so that's the whole idea here, is we want everyone to be treated equally. It should not matter where you're from if you're a great software engineer.
We didn't care.
Why does it matter if you come from France or India? If I'm hiring a software engineer, I don't care where you're from. I want the best person for my job that I'm offering. And so just the fundamental concept of freedom and equality and treating everyone the same regardless of race, regardless of where you're from, that's why congressmen would have an incentive to pass this, because it supports the American ideals of what makes this country great.
And look at all the things, though. All men are created equal. I mean, that's what the theory of the Constitution is. It did ignore the women, though. When women were being given right to vote, it's all the men who decided. So if you're going to ask the question, why do they help? Yes. What is the incentive for the men to help? Well, it's the fundamental basic thinking that women are just like anybody else. And we are just like anybody else. Nothing special, nothing great, nothing worse. Should be treated equally. If we are the bad people, if we did something bad, something like this, we should be put in jail. If we have been done something good, well, we should get the Nobel Prize or Oscar, whatever it might be required, whatever we are worth for it. So this takes the discrimination off. And look, if you look into it, in the preceding 7-8 years, now we have these gays and lesbians were treated very badly. I mean, they've been treated equally, and they're being given all the rights. Now the term comes for the immigrants, birth rights based on the birth discrimination is as bad. And things have changed. Women were being given voted. The colored people were being given voted. The gays and lesbians and they're been given equal rights. Now is our turn. We need to get our turn too. We should get the equal rights. We should not be treated based on our birth. We should be treated just like a normal human being. Nothing special, nothing bad.
All right. Ramamurthy has a good follow-up question. So if that's the case, why didn't we go through the judicial process of having this law struck down that created the discrimination instead of waiting for Congress to enact this law to fix the situation?
Unfortunately, the immigrants' rights are a little bit more limited. The chances for us, if we go to us there in the Supreme Court, we don't have the equal rights as U.S. citizens. Unfortunately, when it comes to the man and woman, they cannot discriminate. Even in immigration, they did not discriminate. When it comes to the colored people, they did not discriminate. When it comes to the gays and lesbians, in the immigration, they cannot discriminate. This particular provision of discrimination of the place based on the birth is there in immigration. Yeah, I think so. It may be time to challenge it. It may be time to challenge it. But at this point of time, there is an easy way of getting around. We don't know whether we're going to win that. At least I would say that Reddy Neumann PC does not have the capacity to fight all the way. But at least we can fight. This legislation can recommend you to do it. That's another angle that can be thought about it. But right now, let's get this thing out. Any thoughts on that, Emily?
Yeah, I agree. I think, and one thing that stuck with me from law school was my constitutional law professor talked about the Constitution is a living, breathing document, is one way to look at it, versus it's set in stone and we have to follow exactly what it says all the time. So the idea of it being a living, breathing document is we can reinterpret it based on the times. We've come into a new era where we have a better understanding of discrimination and racial equality and women's rights and gender pay gaps and all of those things. So even if maybe litigation wouldn't have worked 20 years ago, or it could possibly work now, but we can proceed with the legislation first. If that doesn't work out, maybe litigation is the route to go next.
When is the bill coming to the floor or voting? Essay asking from YouTube. We don't know when it is coming. It should come this week, as Annalise pointed out. January 2nd is the last date?
January 2nd is the last date of this Congress. Yes.
Yeah, so but of course from Christmas time onwards they're going to close. So we're expecting 18th is the last. I don't know if they're going to extend any more. That's the thing. We have to see when it's going to come. Are there any reservations for doctors in this bill, just like the PTs and nurses? No, we don't see any reservation for doctors though. One thing is that, I mean, if you have a 2 years I-140 approval, you should be fine. You should be fine, Mr. Kandaswamy. You should be fine with 2 years. I mean, yeah, I wish there was some extra, but because the physical therapists and nurses, they come under Class A section. What is that?
Schedule A.
Schedule A. Sorry, Schedule A. So they are already classified separately. When they add the physicians, so then it will mix up. What do you mean by physicians? Are they practicing physicians? Are they teaching physicians? Are they a particular kind of physicians? So that's probably the reason why they didn't expand it very much, the definition. It was easy for them to put in physical therapists and nurses. They didn't put in occupational therapists. They only put in physical therapists because Schedule A already defines them separately. That's the reason why they didn't add it in other healthcare workers.
A couple of people have asked kind of why certain people are against this bill. And obviously we can't speak for others, but they're looking at it in terms of their clients who are not from India or China. They're from the rest of the world, and yes, their clients will face a longer wait to receive the green card. So that's their perspective. But our perspective is it's the right thing to do, regardless of whether, yes, somebody is going to be benefited and someone's going to be harmed. Everyone's still going to get the green card. Everyone's still going to be able to file. Everyone gets to file after 2 years, regardless of where you're from. So how is it harming you? Yes, you might take longer to get the green card, but fundamental fairness says that I should not be able to cut in line in front of you. So if I'm currently able to cut in line in front of you, yeah, I might want to keep cutting in line. I'm enjoying that. So maybe I don't like it. But even if I don't like the fact that now I can't cut in line, I can still see that really this is the correct thing to do because it treats everybody the same.
Venkat Bala has this question. There's an estimate of 300,000 unused green cards in the employment. Will the law changes? You are right, Venkat, but right now, if you approach the Congress with anything else and they want to add anything else, let me tell you one thing. As I pointed out, we are at 9,990 feet. We just need to get the 10 feet extra. Guess what? If we add anything, we do anything, we have to start all the way from 0 feet climbing up. We don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen.
All right, we have time for one last question. I can't see who it's from, but from YouTube. So what is the benefit of filing the adjustment of status when your priority date is really so far out?
Good question.
Very good question. And it comes as part of Section 7 of this bill. It benefits your kids in that it changes how the Child Status Protection Act works and allows you, once you file the 485, regardless of how far off your priority date is, your child's age is locked in. That is currently not the case, which a lot of people who filed in October 2020 under the filing date chart are not aware or didn't realize that their child's age isn't locked in. Just because they filed it in October 2020, their child's age is not locked in until the final action date becomes current, which could be years from now. So that's one of the major benefits is for the kids. It allows you to still receive the green card, all of the dependents, in case the main applicant dies. And that's something that is becoming a potential reality as these backlogs take longer and longer. We're talking about over 100-year wait. Yeah, the main applicant could pass away, and so that allows the rest of the family to still receive their green card. You are able to get the EAD, you're able to get the advanced parole, you no longer need the H-1B and have to keep filing those extensions and going for your visa interviews at the consulate. And you're eligible for AC-21. That means once your 485 has been filed, after 180 days, you can take your whole green card process with you to a new employer, as long as the job is similar, and they submit a Supplement J form, which has a new fee according to this law if it passes. But that's a huge benefit. That's going to allow greater job mobility. That's going to help increase wages. Right now, with having everybody kind of stuck at one employer where they can't move so easily, that depresses wages for U.S. workers.
Yes.
So when we eliminate that restriction, it frees up the market to actually decide what the proper wages should be. Wages should be increased overall.
Emily, you said that they don't have to file the H-1B, but you said that they have to file the J supplement to move from company A to company B. How hard is it compared to the H-1B though?
So right now, I mean, I would take a Supplement J over filing an H-1B any day of the week. I mean, it's a pretty simple process. The company is not actually having to sponsor you for anything. They're just confirming, hey, we have a valid job offer. It's a bona fide job. It's a real job that exists. Here's the salary. Here's the work location. Here's the job duties. That's all the employer is doing. For an H-1B, they have to get the LCA where they're certifying under penalty of perjury that they're offering the wage under certain conditions and there's not a strike and they've given notice to U.S. workers. Then they have to get that certified, file the petition with thousands of dollars in filing fees, confirming again under penalty of perjury that everything they've said in this petition is true and accurate, and then you have to wait 8 months for it to be approved, or pay an extra $2,500 to get it approved in a normal, reasonable period of time. So yes, the Supplement J is an extra process that you have to do, but compared to an H-1B, any employer would choose a Supplement J filing over an H-1B filing any day of the week.
And just to add that for the Supplement J, they added the $2,000 fees. I think so it still is fine, even though they added the $2,000 fees. Only one thing, if Supplement J, they have to file, and they get EAD for 3 years. Not 1 year, not 2 years, the entire 3 years they get an EAD. And based on the law that I read is that if they change the employer within that 3-year period, they don't have to file a Supplement J.
Yeah.
It's only every 3 years
when
they apply for the renewal, they have to go for the Supplement J. So if you're moving from company A to company B and from company B to company C, within the 3-year period, you don't have to file anything. I mean, you just keep moving on. You're in good shape, no problem at all. Only when you go every 3 years, you pay $2,000, you get an EAD, you're in good shape. I mean, no problem with it. This is the best thing that we can request. This is the best we have under the circumstances. There are some sacrifices made, but I would live with it rather than fight this one. Anything else, Emily?
I think that is it for today. Thank you all for joining us. If we didn't get to your question, remember we do have our daily conference call that you can join for free. Go to rnlawgroup.com to get the information regarding that.
And then please put a note that whether you have written the letter and whether you have posted it on the Facebook, we really appreciate. We want to see an effort from you too, because this is, you know, you have been discriminated according to us, and if you feel that you have been discriminated, you should at least write a letter to the congressman and post it on your Facebook. Thank you very much.